This video is made possible by Gerald Subaru. You know Subaru makes fantastic cars, and Gerald Subaru in Naperville matches those vehicles with fantastic service as well. Visit GeraldSubaruNaperville.com to start your new car search today. Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2020 Subaru Crosstrek Premium. Up front is a 2.0 liter flat 4, and down below is a CVT. Now, I have always been interested in the Crosstrek, and this is my first time driving one. I got introduced to these vehicles about 2 years ago when I went on an off-road trip and saw one absolutely tearing up the off-road terrain. I knew I always wanted to drive one, and honestly, I'd always love to own one. But now I finally get my chance to see what it is like. So let's get back to that 2.0 liter flat 4. It's the same engine you'll find in the Impreza. I actually drove a 2018 Impreza in manual with this same engine, and it's all right. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's all right. It makes 152 horsepower and 180 foot-pounds of torque, which isn't anything crazy, but it's definitely enough to get this thing to move. However, coming next year in 2021, they are giving the Crosstrek the 2.5 liter, which should be a big power bump and should solve some issues that I have with the Crosstrek. But we're out here on the test track. It's a little bit of a gloomy day, but we're out on the test track. Let's see what this thing can actually do. All right, so we do have two different drive modes. We have SI drive or not SI drive. And I don't think you'll be able to hear anything, but yeah, it's not great. And going off that, honestly, one of my biggest issues with the Crosstrek is the CVT. This has a continuously variable transmission, so there's no set gears. It's a bunch of witchcraft that mimics gears, but it's not. It's sort of weird. And it drives really weird. As you heard on that acceleration pull when I floored it, it sort of didn't rev that fast. And that's not because this isn't a fast revving motor. It's because the transmission is changing. As you're accelerating, it's changing the ratios instead of shifting. It's a very odd sensation for a car enthusiast. If you're looking to buy this and you really don't have any interest in automotive sport or anything like that, you're not going to notice it. The car's going to drive like normal. But however, for me, it's definitely an odd sensation. Now, you could have gotten, and you can still get the Crosstrek with a manual transmission. However, according to Subaru, it's only about 2% of their sales, and the Subaru dealer that I work with, they haven't had one on the lot in months. So, while you can still get them in a manual, and if it's something you want to seek out on the secondhand market, don't expect that option to stay around for too much longer. Last but not least, of course, it is a Subaru, so it has the symmetrical all-wheel drive system, which, as I always say, is one of the best all-wheel drive systems in the auto industry. It always has been and probably always will be. But let's get on to the interior. We have a lot to talk about. So in front of me, I have two physical gauges. On the left is my tachometer, and on the right is my speedometer. And then in the center, I get an information screen giving me my MPGs, my miles per hour in digits, my radar cruise control settings, which still has the quirk carried over from the Outback. Whenever I put the brakes on, the little Crosstrek in the gauge cluster also puts its brakes on, which is kind of nice. Then I have my trip odometer and car odometer as well. Something I don't have in the gauge cluster that I would really like to have is a coolant temperature gauge. It does have a light. The Crosstrek does have a light to warn you that the vehicle is too cold. But besides that, I can't really keep an eye on the temperature. And the reason I point this out is because if you are an off-road enthusiast who wants to use this vehicle off-road, temperature is a good thing to keep an eye on. Anytime you do anything, I guess, extracurricular in a vehicle, it's good to keep an eye on the temperature. Track days, off-roading, you want to make sure that there's not mud stuck in your radiator and your car's overheating. And unfortunately, I can't seem to do that within the gauge cluster, unfortunately. I really wish I could, but right now I can't. Moving on to the steering wheel, first of all, it has this nice orange stitching. I kind of like that slight little accent, which you can get the Crosstrek in a very orange. Maybe I'd be happier with the stitching in that thing because it sort of matched the outside. But on the left, I have my volume controls, skip track, phone options. And down to the bottom left, I have my controls for that center screen I was just talking about in the gauges. And then on the right, I have my radar, cruise control options, and drive modes. Like I said, I have SI drive, which is sort of a sportier setting. It'll change up your shifting a little bit, make you feel like you have a little bit more power. To the left of me, I have my dimmer switches, traction control on and off, automatic start stop on and off, my favorite button in the world because I hate that feature, and my blind spot monitoring on and off. This is really helpful, again, for off-road. Turning off your blind spots in a Camry, you're probably never going to do that, but in this, you don't want your car thinking that a tree is oncoming traffic. On the door, I do have my power windows, power locks, and power mirrors. Nothing really too crazy. However, the door sort of has this, I don't want to say fake carbon fiber, but it looks like fake carbon fiber on the door. I actually don't mind it. It kind of looks sleek and just adds a little bit of extra feel to the door. Moving into the center, I do have a very nice information screen up top. It's giving me my time, outside temperature, and what my climate controls are currently doing. I like this a lot, and the hood really shades the screen, so even in direct sunlight, I'm not going to fight to figure out what it says. I like this a lot. I really do. I think this is really great. Down below that, I do have my touch screen. It is a 6-inch Starlink screen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Very, very nice. Very easy to use. The screen is very high quality. It genuinely looks like any modern tech device has just been stuck behind the dashboard, and that's a good thing. I really genuinely do like it. Down below that, I have my radio options, so radio, phone, apps, media, and skip track. Of course, tune and scroll and volume, things like that. I am leaving the plastic on because that is not my duty to peel off. That is the right of the first owner. So it would be just piano black plastic. Down below that, I have my climate controls and hazard button. Nothing really too crazy here. No dual zone, but it does have auto on and off, which is kind of nice. And I do have power defrosters and defrosting mirrors. Again, a nice feature. But speaking of the mirrors, I forgot to talk about this. They have a little Subaru logo in them, and when you open the door, it actually illuminates. A little light comes on behind the Subaru logo. I've never noticed that on other Subarus. I think that's a really cool and interesting little touch. But getting back to the center console, the shifter, it's fine. It's nothing too crazy. It's a pretty standard Subaru shifter. I can put it over and plus minus it if I want. I do have paddle shifters on the steering wheel. I forgot to mention that. I do have paddle shifters. I can plus minus. It's a CVT, so you're not really plus minusing, but it is what it is. Now, down below that, I have two more interesting things. First of all, I have heated seats, high or low. So 2 different settings for heated seats. I really like that. And then I have my X mode. So unlike the Subaru Outback, X mode just is X mode. The Subaru Outback gave you a couple different options for like gravel, snow, sand, things like that. But this is just, you're either in X mode or not. And so X mode is for off-road driving. This is actually a mode designed for off-road driving. Puts on hill descent control. It, turns off a lot of the sensors like I mentioned earlier, so it doesn't think a boulder's a car coming at you, things like that. And that is nice that I do get that customization. However, I wish that it was as much as the Outback. I wish I could actually fine-tune and say, hey, I'm driving in mud as opposed to sand, as opposed to gravel, as opposed to snow, as opposed to gummy bears, whatever it may be. Now, the seats are decently comfortable. They have that orange stitching carried on from the steering wheel, so there is some continuity in here. I like them. They're comfortable. I wish that they were a little bit nicer. They do kind of look and feel just a little bit cheap, and that's sort of what I'm getting from this interior. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's do a back seat review as well as a trunk review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2020 Subaru Crosstrek Premium, and thankfully, gone are the days of the terrible Subaru back seats. I always mention this, but in the really late 90s to mid 2000s, Subaru back seats were atrociously small. Even for me. I mean, they were just horribly, horribly small. And so this is my driving position. My knees are not touching the front seat, which is absolutely awesome. This is a very usable back seat. I'm so happy that Subaru finally came to their senses and realized, hey, we make hatchbacks. Why are we making our back seats so tiny? And they switched that up for the Crosstrek. I absolutely love that. These seats do fold down. We'll talk about that in a second. I don't really get any amenities back here. No heated seats. Don't actually even get a center console. The fake carbon fiber carries onto these rear doors as well. Overall, the seats aren't terribly uncomfortable. They're a little bit hard but they're not, unusable. I could definitely sit back here on a road trip, going somewhere, doing something. It wouldn't be that big of an issue. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world. However, it's very usable. And I actually have a good amount of headroom. I'm 5'11", and I got probably like an inch and a half to spare. And that's me sitting, fully straight up. So let's go talk about the hatch. All right, so we are around the back. This is the key. I feel like I never really show the keys, but pop it like that. It does not have a power tailgate. However, of course, we have the new floor mats, things like that. It's a new car. Now, does it have it? Does it have it? It might not. Oh my goodness, it doesn't have a 12-volt outlet back here. That's always what I look for in new SUVs, is 12-volt outlet. 12-volt outlets are extremely useful for inflating an air mattress while you're camping, or the tire deflator, or inflator, excuse me, things like that. This does not have that. However, it's an adequate amount of space. Like I said, these seats do go down. You can see they kind of click in here and they fold down. So you can have the entire rear seat go down. Gives you a lot of extra room. I do have a privacy cover. I mean, all of these, of course, things like that. Nothing really too crazy back here. It's a decent amount of space, especially for the size of vehicle with those folding rear seats. I think you're gonna be all right. Now we gotta talk about the looks. I like the look of the Crosstreks. I think they look good. This isn't that crazy of a color, but like I said, they have that orange that just really pops, really grabs your eye, and I think that's what I would go with if I went with a Crosstrek. I think I would kind of get that bold color. I like it. I just, I really do. But moving on, this car is priced right now at $28,000, almost $30,000. And I honestly think that this car is a decent value for that. I wish that it had a little bit more power, but that's going to get fixed in 2021. And I wish it felt a little bit nicer in here. I'm very back and forth on this fake carbon fiber. One minute I like it, one minute I don't. And I don't know if I were to purchase this, which thought process would stick. And again, I wish the seats looked a little bit nicer. However, they are very rugged, and this is a more rugged vehicle. When you buy a Subaru because they're extremely capable. You don't buy a Subaru because you want a luxury car to show up at the red carpet events in. You just don't. These are made for a purpose. If I wanted to, you see this tall grass right here that's a ditch? I could drive right through that, no problem in this thing. Absolutely no problem. This is an extremely capable vehicle. And so I can't really knock it too hard for not being luxurious. And so my final thoughts is I've been working with Gerald Subaru now for a little bit, and the last car I reviewed from them was a Subaru Outback Onyx. And for $10,000 more, the Outback is a lot more car. I would take an Outback over a Crosstrek pretty much any day of the week. That being said, I'll cut to the footage with some light modifications, not even any modifications if you really don't want to. These things are beasts off-road. I mean, really, truly tanks. I really do like the Crosstrek. I just think that there's a couple things that could be tweaked to really make it solid, really make it just a great performing vehicle. And I can't say I blame Subaru. The Crosstrek hasn't been around for that long. The first ones were in 2012, so this is really only an 8-year-old car, and they're actually still on the first generation of it. So here's to Subaru, hopefully with the second generation, just pushing it that extra inch further and really making something diabolical off-road. Well, I want to give a huge thank you to Gerald Subaru for allowing me to take out their Crosstrek. They are absolutely awesome. Their staff there is super friendly. They have tons and tons of cars on the lot. Go check them out. Their information is up on the screen and linked in the description below. Tell them I sent you and pick yourself up a Crosstrek, or honestly, go pick yourself up an Outback. They're really great. They're really great. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.